A very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for joining us right here on Days Counter for your daily dose of business news. My name is Allan Owino, and as usual, you can keep the conversation going on all our social media platforms. That's at TV47KE, or you might as well send me a direct tweet on my handle at @Owino with the hashtag The Days Counter. But for now, let's have a look at the top stories.
In 2007, we had a
Let's kick off the top stories. The price of charcoal across the country has doubled in 4 years following the ban on logging, hitting homes that are already grappling with the high price of kerosene. The surge in charcoal price is linked to a ban on logging, while that of kerosene is attributed to tax increase targeted at hindering unscrupulous traders from fuel adulteration. Charcoal prices surged 84% per kilogram tin to an average of 145.2 in 2019, while that of a litre of kerosene jumped 13% to 102.29 shillings. Let's move on to other matters. Local travel agents have called upon the online community to stop circulating disinformation of the new COVID-19 virus, popularly known as coronavirus. The agents say the misleading information on the virus has caused a global panic which is affecting businesses. The Kenya Association of Travel Agents Thursday said the disinformation is causing travelers from various parts of the world to cancel their flights to Kenya. Let's move on to other stories. Strathmore University, in conjunction with development initiatives, Africa Practice Code for Africa, MAP Kibera, and Local Development Research Institute today held an event to promote awareness and use of open data that attracted over 100 data specialists to discuss the benefits of open data and encourage the adoption of open data policies in Kenya. Take a look.
In 2007, we had a lot of psych when Kenya Open Data Initiative came into place, and everyone was excited about this, and we lost it along the way, and that psych is no longer there. There is a lot of data out there that people have produced, and some of it have been kept private, some of it is public, of course. But again, another issue is the use. A lot of data that is open don't get to be used as it should be. Government keeps hiding their data. Government doesn't want to accept that, for example, citizen-generated data can also be helpful to them and even to Kenyan citizens. For example, in Kibera, we've collected data on health, on security, on education, and water and sanitation. And we've moved even to other informal settlements like Madare and Mukuru, and recently Kangemi. And just currently we are working with World Bank to help the county governments to be able to collect data on projects they have implemented since devolution. And that means that the projects that they've been implementing, some of the citizens don't know about them. And so World Bank came up with this program called participatory budgeting, where members of the public can then be given an opportunity to decide what projects they want to be implemented for them. And they can't do that if they don't know what's already there. So we produced large maps. We helped the counties, 3 counties so far, Makueni, Baringo, and West Pokot, to be able to produce these large maps that can be able to be used during participatory budgeting, and members can look at them. Citizens can look at them and say, look, we have a hospital, we have a clinic, we have a market, now we need a school in our area. And it's used as a decision-making tool, you know. But government still are hesitant to try and use this data. But the funny thing is that, for example, the data we collected in Kibera, governments have been sneaking to try and use it. For example, our data we collected on security, they come to our office and say, Map Kibera, you have a map, you produced a map on security showing all the safe and unsafe places. Could you please help us with it? We want to know where our police can be focusing with their patrols. And within no time, you see them raising some security lights or even putting up a police post in areas we mapped as insecure. So they hide a bit, but they use it. At the same time, they don't want to accept that they use it.
That was what we had for you on the top stories, and that story on open data brings us to the Business Voices segment. Let's listen in.
And we've also put the investments in Nigeria as well. One of the things that we do as Microsoft is, knowing that we're a major cloud provider, we basically need to make sure that our resources are highly skilled. That is really what drives innovation at the end of the day. That is what we need to do as we engage all sorts of customers. You know, today we're talking about the banking sector that have all sorts of challenges. We think about skills as a critical part of that engagement. So these are just three, and you are probably experiencing this in your industry today. You know, how do you move to the next level? What do you think around the changing workforce within your environment? We're always hearing about restructuring, you know, restructuring within your organization. There's no job that is secure today. The focus is really around the skills development that is required for you to move to the next level in your organization. And if we think about some of the disruptive solutions in the banking sector, digital is disrupting the way banks deal with their customers. It's a big concern in terms of how do you make sure that you're really focused on competition? How do you compete with the next person? I just told the story of Tencent and Alipay in China. The question is, in Kenya, there are all of those types of challenges that you face within the financial services space. There are new software companies and new fintech companies that are rising every day. And you can see the statistics around, you know, around competition for customers is continually becoming fierce, you know, in terms of mobile mobility with regards to personalization. The guy that spoke to me earlier on, spoke before me, spoke about personalization and so on and so forth. You know, so these are areas where we need to think about from a digital transformation point of view. Now, regulation continues to be a big challenge and concern for the financial services space and those that are players within this industry. Recently, I think the European Union more or less put up this Payment Services Directive, which they're enforcing as from September last year, with regards to ensuring that you have authentication as a critical part of your service. Because there are all sorts of services today, mobile, internet-based services that you offer within the banking sector. But all those services needs to be regulated. You need to make sure that your consumers are protected, because there's a lot of data theft that is happening within this industry. There's a lot of monies that has been lost within this industry. So the regulators are really putting in very stringent measures to ensure that the consumers are safe, that their income or their finances and funds are safe within, you know, the environment that they operate in. You know, and right now there are all sorts of business models that are being thought about. You know, there's the API economy. They're encouraging a lot of the banks to expose their APIs so that you can have third-party partnerships and providers connecting to some of those services, and you can ensure that you are providing those services to your consumers. So this is something that is really changing within the banking sector. as we think about all of this, we know that there are all sorts of technologies that is fueling this industry, and we need to really come to life with them. We're thinking about APIs. You know, there are lots.
All right, let's move on to other stories. Ahead of the International Women's Day and in the wake of women empowerment and the equity agenda being a constant debate across the globe, we take a look at Tene Konate, a Burkina Faso woman who, together with the dozens of others at the Hound Gold Mine, have formed a vanguard of women workers, overturning long-held prejudices in the male-dominated mining industry as they now take on male-oriented roles. Let's take a look.
Anyone who thinks a mine is no place for a woman obviously hasn't met Tene Konate. She drives a 72-ton dump truck at the Houndé gold mine in Burkina Faso. Amid a global push to get more women into the male-dominated industry, Konate, along with dozens of others at Houndé, is leading the way.
The fact that it's a man's job and that I can do it, I like that very, very, very much.
But the road has not been smooth. 9 years ago, Konate split from her husband in Ivory Coast and moved with her 2 young daughters back to her home country. She worked odd jobs, from cleaning houses to making concrete, putting aside 100 francs or less than $0.0025 each day.
As a woman, you fight, even if it's just for 100 francs. With 100 francs a day, you can do something.
She started working at the mine, run by Canada's Endeavour Mining, when it was still under construction, picking up plastic bags and debris from the mine floor before later being trained as a truck driver. She now has a large house and can easily pay for her daughter's schooling. Her achievement is all the more impressive in a country where traditional attitudes often bar women from well-paid, skilled work. But Konate is not alone. Sonia Nikiema also used to drive a dump truck. Now she's in charge of around 60 workers, coordinating various pit operations.
You can talk to a man and he will tell you even his wife doesn't talk to him like that, forgetting, of course, that it's not his wife who is there with him. It's his colleague. Mining has lagged other industries in introducing women to the workplace, but that's starting to change. There are now 111 women workers at Houndé, around 11% of the workforce, but Endeavour Mining says 20 to 30% of their total workforce will be made up of women in the near future, while the world's biggest mining company, BHP Billiton, is aiming for a gender-balanced workforce by 2025.
Now, still on international news, home decor and design has given many people both the fulfillment as a hobby and as a career. Terry Claire, an American currently living in Kigali, Rwanda, founder of Nafasi, the design bar, spoke to Diana Iriza, our correspondent in Rwanda, on what differentiates her decor business and the rest, and how she's using her business to contribute to the growth of the Rwandan economy.
Hello viewers, now join me as we visit Nafasi, the design bar. We'll be exploring the products that are up for sale here at the design bar, and we'll be talking to Terry Claire. She'll be answering a few questions that we'll be asking her. Come with me. Here she is.
Hi.
Hi Terry. Hello.
Come on in.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. All right, Miss Terry Claire, thank you so much for having this interview with TV47. Now, can you briefly tell us what was the inspiration behind the creation of Nafasi, the design bar?
Yes, so I actually started Nafasi Interiors as an interior designer back when I lived in DC in America in 2013, a long time ago. And so I've always been a designer and wanted to, when we moved to Rwanda, wanted to carry that over. Right. The design bar is a branch inside of Nafasi where I was able to create a physical store, a location where people could come and check out my designs, see them in person instead of like visiting locations. It's fun to have a place here where every season you can come and see a different design and then also be able to shop from it. So this is a little boutique shop. There's tons of unique pieces that you won't find in other places here. And so if you just want a little freshen in your home, you can pick up a vase, pick up a candle, something that really stands out.
So was it challenging for you moving from DC to Rwanda and starting a whole new business and trying to look for market for your products?
Yes and no. It was, so when I first moved here, I was not living in Kigali yet. When I moved to Kigali, so the first year I was living more rural. The second year, once I moved to the city, it became much simpler to get clients and to have more of a following. But luckily, right when I moved to, I was living in Rubengera, I started a blog where we were renovating our house there. And so people were following my blog for the first year and kind of getting familiar with me and understanding like what I do and how it's possible to have really cool design here. So by the time I moved to Kigali my second year, I've been here for 3 years. By the time I moved to Kigali, people were more familiar with me, and I think they reached out more because they were aware of me.
Okay, so you mentioned it's a bit hard for Rwandans to find the pieces that you're selling here elsewhere. What makes your products significant from all the home decor products and all the design products that we have out here in Rwanda?
Yeah, we have kind of 3 different categories of things here, which makes them all stand out. One being things that like I physically draw up out of my mind or inspiration from the internet. Okay. And so we create them so they don't exist yet. So that those are brand new designs like this bed and this mirror, like things that I've actually drawn up. The second category is finding pieces from local groups or local artisans that maybe don't have a huge public place to display them or to sell them. So I go and I find maybe like the 2 or 3 best things and like really highlight those. So instead of also like at a market, you might see thousands and thousands of things and they all kind of blur together and you're just like, baskets are pretty. But I try to take like a really, really beautiful basket, put it right there so you can't help but see it and be like, oh, that's gorgeous. So I just create a market for people. And then the third thing is pieces that I don't know their origin. They might be imported, but I still source them in town or in small shops that sell them. And then I just curate them here.
Okay, so can we explore a little bit on what is going on behind us here? Yeah. Can you tell us, just brief us a little bit on what's going on here, the products that you have here? And
yeah, so we just, you might have seen, started installing this room. It's the beginning of our spring 2020 collection, which is a bedroom. The last 2 collections, the last 2 seasons, we had different living rooms with different living room furniture. But this one we have a brand new bed, which I'm in love with. I bought it for myself also.
Does this bed have to be right next to the wall?
No. No, I like to have it next to the wall because over the weekend, we had a community mural where everybody helped paint that mural on the wall. And the reason why I wanted to have the mural with this bed against it is because it's open so you can still see the mural through the bed, but you can still have the bed against the wall. Okay. So it's beneficial that it's open, that you still can put it against the wall, but no, you don't have to.
Okay. I think it's a very nice setup. If someone comes here with the purpose to buy a bed, they will look at the entire design and be like, okay, I should go ahead and buy the candles as well, buy the mirror, and somehow come up with something similar, similar design and similar home decor. Now, talk to us about what you're doing to contribute to the country's economic growth. Are you providing job opportunities to the locals here?
Yeah, so like we were just talking about with the pieces that we design and build, and even with the pieces that I curate, everything is local. So if I'm drawing up this bed, I have maybe like 5 to 10 carpenters that I am consistently employing to constantly, once one person buys this bed, he makes another. And then someone buys this one, and then he makes another. So I'm constantly working with people so that we can work on a price that they're profiting.
So what do you think is missing in the design field here in Rwanda and the decor field here in Rwanda? Is there any specific thing that you believe Rwandans can learn from you, especially Rwandans who are trying to run businesses of this kind?
I think starting from the beginning, starting with your tape measure and your favorite paint color, and like starting with a plan is the biggest thing that I would suggest. So don't just buy the set of furniture that you see at the store. Measure your space completely. Think about flow. Like think about when you walk in the door, you want to see the face of your sofa or the face of your bed. So the mural, you want your eye to be drawn to a focal point. Okay. And you want to lay your furniture out where it's measured so that you can walk in between it. You can be close enough so that you can have conversation, but far enough where you're not bumping into each other. It's all about drawing a little map, measuring everything out, and making sure you have flow.
All right, thank you so much, Terry, for having this interview with us.
Hey, you're welcome.
All right, so that was it from Terry, the founder of Nafasi, the design bar, and she shared a whole lot of information on how to run a design business, home decor business, and I hope we can all learn from the few tips that she shared with us. All right, thank you for joining us. Back to you, TV47.
All right, that is all we had for you from the business news. But at this point, we'd love to take a short break. Don't go away. When we get back, we'll be having a studio discussion to discuss the effects of the coronavirus, on the tourism industry. Let's take a break. Welcome to Woodland Resort, carefully positioned in a tranquil environment to give guests an almost private stay with the advantage of being in a serene and spoiled surroundings. We have a tailored, bespoke and transparent travel itinerary that are personalized with individual guest preference. Our well-trained, warm and friendly service personnel attend to guests, offering them fresh traditional meals sourced locally and matched with our chef's culinary skills to ensure consistent and rushes feedback from our clients. Woodland Resort, for comfort and elegance. Located in the outskirts of Kitale town, Kitale-Webuye Road, opposite St. Joseph's Boys Kitale.
Hey, Sospita son, tumefutwa wote.
Yawa, pia wewe?
Tumeachiliwa.
Si pia wewe unaweza anzisha biashara yako?
Na hii economy venye iko tough sana.
But not too tough for Mwananchi Credit.
Tutafanya aje?
Si niko na 5 good cars. We can get a quick logbook loan approved within 6 hours.
Nataka kuanzisha salon na spa. Hii haitatosa.
Si tuko na title deeds pay. We can still get more money using them. Get a quick approval within 6 hours using your logbook or title deed. Do not get stuck. Call Mwananchi Credit today. Si nilikuambia.
You are a big smart joke.
Mwananchi Credit. Investor in people.
Wiki hii kwenye sauti yetu.
Tunatoka kwa soko kufika kwa nyumba. Mwanzo unapima ile kiasi kama ni kilo 5. Unajua kilo 5 inafaa ili kuweza kama ito 15 liters, unaona?
Kwa Mwadime, hii sio kazi tu. Anawasaidia wana Kibra kuimarisha afya yao.
Sio aibu. Juu unafanya kazi, sasa utasikia aibu aje?
Yule anajiweza anaona ni aibu. Lakini yule hajiwezi haoni kama ni aibu.
Mary Mwende anafanya kazi ya kuuza nguo za kuvaa ndani kama vile chupi hapa mtaani Kibra. Licha ya kuonekana kazi ya aibu, hakujali, ila alijua mchagua jembe sio mkulima. Sauti yetu kila Jumamosi saa 3:30 asubuhi.
Kutoka maeneo mbalimbali nchini tunatamba,
na pia ni kuone ukiogelea kidogo tu.
Kuogelea? Tunasaka, tunazungumza.
I have ridden to school using my father's bicycle.
Ili mradi kukufahamisha wewe katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi.
Tena balance uzuri ni kwamba mke wangu pia anafanya kazi. Usinipite Mwokozi, unisikie.
Katika ari na ukakamavu tunawapata. Tunaangazia viongozi waliokuwepo na waliopo kutoka kaunti zote 47 pasi kubagua wala kuchagua. Ungana nami Elizabeth Mtuku kila siku ya Jumatano saa 2 kamili katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi.
Uandishi wa habari uliokwenda darasani na kufuzu vyema umetua rasmi. Lengo lake kuu ni kufahamisha jamii kwa taarifa ya kina kupitia upeo wa TV47 unaotua kwa safari yenye hatua mpya na muonekano wa hali ya juu. Kila Jumatatu saa 1 jioni, Clifford Ndubi na Andrin Kilemi wanaibuka kwa taarifa stadi. Andrin Kilemi atarejea tena Jumanne saa 1 jioni kwa ukurasa mwingine wa habari. Siku ya Jumatano, Salome Muiruri ndiye atakayepasua mbarika ya habari. Na miale ya jua itakapotua magharibi, siku ya Alhamisi, Emmanuel Terer na Liz Mutuku watatua usukani wa upeo. Mnamo Ijumaa, Paul Kirobi na Fiona Kenga watadadavua habari kwa njia ya aina yake. Jumamosi haujasazwa, nahodha wako Corazon Safen atahakikisha meli haikwendi mvange. Josh Onsare ndiye atakayevalia njuga taarifa siku ya Jumapili nia kubwa ikiwa kufunga wiki kwa mpigo. TV47, nyumbani mwa taarifa nadra zisizopakuliwa kwingine.
The skills you develop and the drive you develop is what matters. Because if you get your opportunity, no one will give you the next level. You have to fight for it.
Young people who are in the education system, they are the very lucky people because you have a card that can speak for you. I am a student. Can I do this? I am a student. Can I do this? You have a card that can speak for you.
We're the ones who are going to live through this country for the next 50 years. And it's something that needs to be fixed today. And so I think the ones who should be championing in terms of having a better country and pushing for equality is young people.
The parents probably went to school in 1980, 1962. During those times you had a degree, you are a provincial administrator. Immediately. Yes. Right now, I cannot imagine how many mathematicians graduated last year December. I cannot imagine.
And so we need to realize that the situation is dire. And sometimes even our office WhatsApp group, we get DMs of people crying because they are jobless. And it's depressing to the point where they're telling you they are going to commit suicide.
We would not be having this conversation if 20 years ago the nation had this conversation about what work would look like.
On this particular program, the hashtag to use as always is hashtag Youth Connect, and my name as always is Eugene Nangwe. Josephine Uko is actually helping us to interpret this through sign language.
Thank you very much for staying with us right here on the Day's Counter. And if in case you're joining us right now, remember, you can communicate with us on all our social media platforms. That's at TV47KE, or call and send a text with the details that are on the bottom right of your screen. Now, we want to jump into the studio segment, the studio interview segment, which we are joined by Neena Jabbal of Aslan Adventure Tours and Travel. Neena? Thank you very much for joining me. Now, for having me. Just before we start to discuss matters pertaining to the effects of coronavirus on the tourism industry, maybe you introduce us and tell us what Aslan Adventures is all about.
Okay. Yeah. As you mentioned, I'm the managing director of Aslan Adventure Tours. Travel has always been my passion. Right, I've been in the industry for 30 years,
Right.
and the reason why I'm in the industry is because it was my passion. Being a commerce graduate, I realized when I looked at different countries, different people, that I would love to, be there or experience it and be able to meet different people, go and see different places, and that's when I decided, okay, I want to be in this field. And then, of course, I did my courses, my diplomas, and worked 15 years in the industry for another company. And then 11 years old, actually founded and am managing my own company.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so that has been the journey, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So just before we actually get into the effects of coronavirus, on a general perspective, like in a tourism section, a general perspective, how were the numbers? How are the numbers just before we started dealing with this coronavirus? You've been in the industry. How was tourism before we were faced with this epidemic?
You see, we do both inbound, outbound, right? So we do get clients who come from outside into Kenya, and we do get people who are Kenyans or Africans actually from Africa going out of Kenya to visit other places. So we do both inbound, outbound tours. And what we have noticed is that yes, travel is very, I would say, it's very popular. People want, it's one of the biggest industry in the world, just not in Kenya. I mean, for us, Kenya, yes, tourism really is huge. But in the world as well, it's a very big chunk of the industry, any industry that you count. And so when you look at it, I would say it's affected at the moment because Africa is not affected by coronavirus. So all outbound is affected. People are cancelling their, what do you call, all their flights. Conferences are getting cancelled, exhibitions are getting cancelled, people's meetings are getting cancelled, people want to visit family, though, they don't want to take that risk. So that risk factor is the one, at the moment, we are majorly concerned with what is happening to the airline industry. Of course, the hotel industry, but what's happening is, those numbers which the airlines were always depending on, which are always full. Has drastically reduced.
Okay. Now, just a couple of days ago, I think a day ago, Kenya Association of Travel Agents released a statement where they wanted to give the Kenyans an update on the coronavirus. And one of the things that they mentioned is that intra-travel has not been affected both locally and within the African continent. Meaning the travel between Africa is just okay because we've not had the cases. Now, the question to ask is Kenya able to sustain its tourism sector with regards to the intra-travel? Can we actually manage the tourism sector as we speak right now, just basically doing it within?
If Africa is not affected, then yes, we can say that we are within ourselves. We're trying to, everyone is looking for, partnerships. Everyone's looking for ways to make, you cannot sustain. Tourism does not only affect tourism alone. The effect is actually long because there are so many sectors involved. Right? So what happens is it's not just the airline industry. So if Africa is not affected, then we will be able to, yes, the numbers would come down because of course we depend a lot on incoming international clients coming in, but we actually would be able to at least be able to survive with what we can do. And then if Africa is not affected, then of course what we can do is, let's send people to Ethiopia, let's Ethiopian come to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, East Africa, the rest of the Africa. And that's the way to go because you need to look for options. Any business needs to look for options. Any sector needs to look for options.
Okay, now, still on the same point in terms of sustaining our tourism sector is when you come down locally here in Kenya, maybe it's hearsay, I really don't know about the numbers, but you might tell us that not so many people travel, not so many people visit different places. At least that's what people say, because maybe there's an assumption that it's an expensive venture. It's probably it's accessible to certain people in certain types of classes. You run a travel agency. Maybe you tell us from the perspective that you've seen from a business perspective, how are the numbers in terms of people actually locally promoting tourism? Is it really that good, or it's not faring on well?
In recent times, better.
Yeah.
People in previous, I would say 10 years back, were not aware of what Kenya has to offer, didn't know their own country. But today, I would say, I can easily say 75% of our population knows what Kenya is about. They might not have visited all the places in Kenya, but they do know that we are one of the most important countries in the world. And our landscape, our wildlife, our environment, everything is actually, upscale. And why do people from outside come to visit our country? Of course, because they cannot get that same product. But also the fact that I would actually put it that people, when they come from international as well, I think Kenyans have a completely different profile. Yeah. Okay. We are, you go to any other country, you go to any other country, but many countries. And you don't find that smile, that happiness, that contentment that Kenyans show. And it's not just for show. I'm not saying we don't have problems. I don't say we don't have issues. We do have issues. But I think we're always resilient and we always are ready to face anything heads on. So we always, I think it's kind of, you're not, Kenyans are not depressed about thinking, oh, what's going to happen next. Okay. They're like, okay, you know what?
This is it.
This is it. I'm doing this today and I'm happy about it because I want to do it because it makes me happy. It makes my family happy and, my friends, whoever's involved. And that's one of the reasons what I say. When people come to Kenya, I would not say the whole of Africa, but when people come specially to Kenya, they're really impressed with not only our communication levels. Yes. Each and every person, I think, there's not even 0.whatever% of people who can't speak English. Right? That's
it's a conducive environment.
It's definitely, we are one of the top class countries in the world who, yes, we are a bit expensive, I would say. We are not, those where you can go to Dubai, you can go to Thailand on very cheap, fares because because our national, our park fees are the major factor. But let's not forget that we are conserving our species, our wildlife. And then to conserve that, we do need money for that as well.
Definitely. Which actually now brings us to the point of the coronavirus and the pandemic. Unfortunately, this is a serious issue that's being dealt with. And unfortunately, now it also has a silver lining to it. Because in the sense that when now you dealing with intra-travel within Africa, this means the government can explore opportunities on how they can improve the local tourism.
Yes.
Are you seeing any of this being, what are some of the avenues and the ventures that the government can explore while this is still going on, where there's a lockdown from the international space, and actually improve the local industry within?
Like I said, talk to airlines, different airlines within Africa. Yes, let's talk to different tour operators. So us, for example, in different countries, and try and see where we can actually now exchange our travelers, people who can experience local, because that becomes Africa local. So where we can experience and be able to, but people want to go on holidays. The next that we have is Easter, right? And we are praying and we are hoping that we do find a cure or a vaccine to coronavirus, so that it's not there anywhere else in the world as well, because it does have an effect to us. Doesn't matter whether we have it or not, and then of course that it shouldn't be here. That's what we are doing. But I also feel that not only the government, when I speak to a couple of schools, they're looking at, just in case people are trying to get ready. That's right, because you don't know.
Exactly.
This is unpredictable. Who knows where is it? Where is it going? I wouldn't say where it's coming from, but where is it really going? Yeah. So if you're looking at that, yes, the government is getting prepared for it, and I would say that what the schools are getting prepared for it, for online learning. They're schools are going into thinking about online learning, because what happens that if it hits us and we are like China and shut down?
Okay. Now, if we now jump into a very critical issue that is affecting all industries in the Kenyan space now, there's been high levels of retrenchment, job cuts, and all that. Travel agents have warned, as the virus takes a heavier toll as time passes by, that there are drastic measures that people will be dropped. I mean, you run a travel agency.
That's right.
What's the situation? Do you foresee this? Do you see yourself dropping off some people?
Oh, you don't want to know where we are going with this.
Yeah.
So, for example, I will tell you, we just last year we became GSA. That means the agent for a company called Europa Mundo, which is based in Spain, in Madrid, and we are the only agents here. So we are selling their coach tours for all around the world.
Right.
Of course, majorly Europe, but other places. So for that purpose, that's what our plan was, that this year we're going to take on new staff. And we just did.
Yeah.
We just did.
In the wake of all this,
Didn't know about it, of course.
Yeah.
We're not ready for it. We have come into that, and but the whole that's the whole situation. When I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, I've just brought in new
stuff,
new 3-4 staff on board.
Right.
How am I going to sustain that? That's the biggest issue. But like I said, Kenyans are resilient. We take day as it comes.
Yeah.
So let's see what tomorrow has.
Okay.
And like I said, this is not just affecting us. This is not going to just affect one person, one country, one nation,
Right.
It's all over the world. So I'm sure there are people all over the world working on, I don't even have to give the figures. I don't even have to give facts about what's been happening.
Yeah.
Even by WHO. And it's been worked on. So, as we said, as Kenyans are always optimistic.
We'll continue.
What will not only happen, that will continue. We are optimistic that this is going to end very soon.
Okay. Now, just as we wrap this up and the discussion, how is your company planning to move on from this point? There's definitely losses that you're going to make. There's definitely things that you're actually going to go through after this. And let's say coronavirus doesn't end in the next 1 year, so to say.
Yeah.
How do you plan to see yourself? How do you plan to sustain this business and still make profit out of it?
I'm not sure how I would be able to sustain my business, but I always, as a business person, I always think there has to be something different that you can do.
Yeah.
So I think what we can do as a difference is collectively, as Kenyans, as we always do, in case it does hit us, and we are right in the middle of it, then we as Kenyans come together, and find ways to help people who are affected. And as a company, we are ready to. That's what I'm saying. That it is not going to be. As a company, am I going to sustain? It's as a person, am I going to sustain? As an entity, are we going to sustain as Kenyans? Right? And that's what we want to do. We want to come together, and like I said, God willing, this is not going to come to us. And it's not going to not only come to us, but it's going to come to an end, because it's affecting everything. It's affecting a lot of things in life. People are, when you hear about people dying, people being affected, people getting sick, that is really not a good thing. And that's one of the things that we are hoping that it will end soon. But if it doesn't, then we as Kenyans, we are going to come together, even as our company, as Aslan, we would come together and see how we can help people who are affected. How can we try and help the government? How can we try and help organizations come together, pull in together, and see where we can do the steps that the other governments are doing for where they are right now.
Okay. Neena Jabbal, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Neena Jabbal, the CEO of Aslan Adventure Tours and Travel. And we've tried to talk about the issues that are affecting the tourism industry and how she plans to forge on from here moving forward in the event that the coronavirus hits it. But as she puts it, Kenyans are super resilient and we always get through anything at any time. That's all we had for you today on the Day's Counter. Until next Friday, do stay with us. Sheena Lopez is coming up next, so don't go away.